Let's make a video on Everytime Dr. Doom 1 in Marvel Comics. And we're not talking about moments like when he went to an alternate reality and blew that alternate reality up. Literally wiped it out of existence because he felt like that version of Dr. Doom was dumb. Yes, he did that. Yes, we covered it. You'll find it in the Dr. Doom playlist at the end of this video. No. We're going to cover the times that Dr. Doom won in the main Marvel universe. So, the first real attempt that we see from Dr. Doom for worldwide conquest happens in Fantastic Four issues 57 through 60. Now, this story begins with an invitation to Latveria, but Dr. Doom is actually inviting the Silver Surfer, sending a royal summons, basically inviting him to Doom's castle so that Doom can learn more about the Surfer's powers. Now, having no clue that Dr. Doom is a supervillain because this story takes place almost immediately after the events of the original Galactus trilogy, so the Surfer's learning about everybody on Earth for the first time. The Silver Surfer responds to this summons and travels to Doom's castle in Latveria. And in fact, he puts on a display of the power cosmic for Dr. Doom, and Doom shows Surfer some of the extremely advanced Latverian infrastructure, which leads the Surfer to conclude that Dr. Doom is building all this technology to take over the world. But of course, Dr. Doom assures the Silver Surfer, of course not. Is this the face of a man who would lie to you, Silver Surfer? Well, it turns out that it is, because while the Silver Surfer is distracted by a photo of deep space taken by one of Dr. Doom's satellites, Dr. Doom uses a device that steals the Silver Surfer's power, and then he becomes one of the most powerful beings in the universe. After that, he boards the Surfer's surfboard and then goes to New York to confront the Fantastic Four. And after completely wiping the floor with the team, he tells them that he's going to keep them alive just so they can witness as he takes over the entire world. And so after this, Reed Richards tells the federal government everything that's going on with Dr. Doom. And so the United States mobilizes their military, but neither the US military nor the Soviets at the height of the Cold War, which is arguably when the Soviet Union was at its most powerful, neither of them have anything for Dr. Doom. They can't even slow him down. And so Dr. Doom, in response, puts on demonstrations of this newfound power for the world to see. Entire cities are plunged into darkness, tropical islands are turned into frozen wastelands, ordinary animals are turned into rampaging monsters. People on Reddit start to take responsibility for their own lives. It's all complete and total pandemonium. And so eventually, Reed's able to create a device called the Anti-Cosmic Flying Wing because he's much better at inventing things than he is at naming them. And the wing attacks Doom and then leads him high into Earth's atmosphere, bringing him into contact with the barrier placed around the Earth by Galactus. Now, it is important to specify that again, while this does take place in the immediate aftermath of the original Galactus trilogy, this is when we actually learned the Silver Surfer couldn't leave Earth, that he was confined to the planet as punishment for turning against Galactus. But after Dr. Doom runs into the barrier, he vanishes and the surfboard returns to Earth without him. So although this was a pretty short reign, it's actually the first time Dr. Doom demonstrated his ability to take over the world. But next, we go into probably one of the most iconic Dr. Doom stories of all time, when in 1984, Marvel published the first Secret Wars crossover event, which was one of the biggest events they had ever done at that point in time. The second was arguably Contest of Champions, the first real crossover that Marvel had ever done with all their different heroes and villains. But the premise of Secret Wars was simple. A nigh omnipotent cosmic being brought all the heroes and villains from the Marvel Universe to a planet called Battleworld, which he essentially cobbled together out of the destruction of a galaxy. The Beyonder basically forces the heroes and villains to fight one another, and the last man standing would be rewarded with whatever it is that they wanted. Now, not one for being ordered around. Dr. Doom steals the power of Galactus. And then after stealing the power of Galactus, he devises a way to harness the power of another villain named Claw, who'd been converted into pure energy by Galactus. And this was done to just basically make Doom more powerful, with the intention of taking on the Beyonder himself. Now, initially, it appears the Beyonder had defeated Doom, but Doom revives and then steals the Beyonder's power for himself, becoming the most powerful being in the entirety of the Marvel Universe, and because of how we saw things unfold in Secret Wars 2, was arguably the most powerful being in the multiverse. But while he does assure all the superheroes that he has no desire to rule the universe and simply desires to be left alone, it's Dr. Doom. The guy's literal last name is Doom. So no one trusts him. And so the heroes vote unanimously that Doom cannot be left alone while he has godlike powers. And so before they can act on their decision, Dr. Doom uses an energy blast to kill everybody. Now later on, an alien known as Zaji revives Colossus, who she'd actually fallen in love with, and then he's able to use the medical facilities at the Tower of Doom to revive all of his teammates. Now shortly after this, Doom loses control of his powers momentarily and then inadvertently destroys a nearby planet. And so as the heroes start to attack Doom's tower, Doom's confronted by Captain America, who he tries to disintegrate. But because Captain America is the living embodiment of freedom, that doesn't happen. Not only that, Dr. Doom starts to lose control of his powers yet again. This presents an opportunity for the Beyonder, who'd secretly been possessing Claw's body, to emerge and then reclaim his power from Doom. So while this was a short-lived reign and not technically Earth, but Battleworld, Doom was able to become temporarily omnipotent and defeat not only the Avengers, but basically every major hero in the Marvel Universe up to that point. Now, the next major confrontation between Doom and the Avengers comes in the Emperor Doom graphic novel by David Michelini, Mark Grunwald, and Jim Shooter. Funny enough, in case you're not aware, this basically seems to be the foundation for Avengers Doomsday and how the Marvel Cinematic Universe is building it all up. But this kind of feeds into what's essentially a common theme with Dr. Doom, stealing the powers of another person in order to make himself more powerful. This time, it's Zebediah Kilgrave, also known as the Purple Man, who, in case you're not aware of who he is, he's a villain that has the ability to control the actions of others through the release of pheromones. Now, it's not absolute. Those with a high enough level of willpower or even psychic blocks, or someone like Wolverine with a healing factor, could actually resist this. But after capturing the Purple Man, Dr. Doom creates a device called a psychoprism and then uses it to amplify Kilgrave's abilities, allowing him to enslave pretty much all the world's population, including the Avengers. Now, since he can control the minds of everybody on Earth, it's easy for Doom to assume power over the entire planet. And his reign actually becomes somewhat of a utopia, with war crime, racial divisions, and nuclear proliferation all becoming a thing of the past. To help carry out his orders, he uses the Avengers and Namor, all of whom are under his control. The only Avenger that escaped being under Dr. Doom's control is Simon Williams Wonder Man, who actually had the good fortune to be in a sensory deprivation chamber when Doom took control of the minds of Earth's population. And so Wonder Man sets out to try and bring the Avengers out from under Doom's control, and is eventually successful. Once Namor's free, he actually breaks the psychoprism, which essentially ends any control that Dr. Doom had over the rest of the world, which basically brings an end to his entire reign as Earth ruler. Although the story does end more on a philosophical note than most other Marvel stories where Dr. Doom seizes control, because we end up learning that while Doom was okay with this coming to an end because he found being in charge of the world just a lot more boring than he originally thought it would be, the story ends with the question whether or not the world's better off because Dr. Doom's not in control anymore, because a lot of old rivalries are kicking back in, nuclear proliferation is ramping back up, but of course, Captain America being Captain America says something about freedom, hand waves it all away, and talks about how the world's a better place now. But another notable run between Doom and the Avengers happened in a 2008 storyline called the Venom Bomb, which actually took place in the Mighty Avengers. But this happens in the wake of the first Marvel Civil War event, where the Avengers are basically split into two teams, and the Mighty Avengers is the team that Iron Man assembles to essentially operate as a superhero registration sanctioned team. Now, at the time of the Venom Bomb story, the team consisted of Iron Man, Sentry, Black Widow, Spider-Woman, Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, because this is back when she was Miss Marvel, Ares, and Wonder Man. But the setup for this fight is that Doom releases a substance in New York that turns everyone into Venom-like symbionts, hence the name Venom Bomb. Now, Tony Stark, who at that point was the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., figures out that Doom was responsible for the bomb and then takes his team of Avengers to Latveria to bring Doom into custody. Now, Doom's temporarily transported back in time along with Sentry and Iron Man, but when he returns to the present, he's easily able to subdue and imprison the remaining Avengers, which is quite a feat considering one of them, Ares, is a literal god. Of course, Doom's victory, again, is short-lived because the Sentry returns and then overpowers Doom. But the fact that he was able to take down an entire Avengers roster prior to that is pretty impressive. But a few years later, we get an event called the Children's Crusade, which we just covered. But in case you didn't see that video, it brought the Avengers face-to-face with Dr. Doom yet again. But to add some context before we get into this fight, this event event was really just a continuation of two events, the first of which is Avengers Disassembled, where the Scarlet Witch loses her mind after her sons Tommy and Billy die. Her breakdown results in her losing control of her reality-warping powers and the deaths of former teammates Vision, Hawkeye, and Ant-Man Scott Lang. The second event that we had to touch on was the House of M storyline, where Wanda basically wipes out 98% of the mutant population, which, when I say she wipes them out, I mean she takes away their powers. She doesn't actually kill 98% of the mutant population in Marvel Comics, although that would be kind of insane. But basically, both the Avengers and the X-Men want to hold Wanda accountable for what she's done, and to complicate matters even further, two members of the Young Avengers, Speed and Wiccan, have actually just discovered that they're actually Wanda's dead sons reincarnated. And so when Wiccan starts to lose control of his powers, he fears that he'll end up becoming like his mother and then commit another horrendous act, or at the very least, kill some of his teammates. And so the Young Avengers team up with Magneto and Quicksilver to find the Scarlet Witch. Now this leads them to Latveria, where they discover that Wanda has no powers and no memory of her past life and is set to marry Dr. Doom. Now Dr. Doom captures Wiccan, which puts him at odds not only with the Young Avengers, Magneto and Quicksilver, but with the rest of the Avengers who had secretly followed them to Latveria. But once Wanda regains her memories and her powers, she actually tries to perform a ritual that will repower all the mutants that were stripped of their abilities during the House of M. Now Dr. Doom is part of the ritual, but Patriot, one of the Young Avengers that distrusts Doom, interrupts the whole thing, which somehow transfers all of Wanda's life force energy to Doom, transforming him into a healed version of himself, donning white armor, wielding reality-warping powers, and most importantly, looking about as dope as anybody could be in Marvel Comics. And up to this point, this is the most powerful we've ever actually seen Doom. And in fact, I would say there's a credible argument to be made. He's more powerful here than he was in Secret Wars 2015, because he directly addresses the idea that he's becoming one with the one above all. But regardless, he basically has the power to do anything that he wants to. And he even says that the power of the Beyonder that he possesses during Secret Wars was nothing compared to the power of the Life Force. And even the combined forces of the Avengers and the X-Men, who had also come to Latveria looking for Wanda, were not enough to defeat Doom or even do any significant damage to him. The only thing that prevented him from basically taking over all of creation, so the Earth, the universe, and potentially even the multiverse, was that the Life Force just proved to be too powerful for him to harness, and the power just burns through him, which ultimately just returns him back to his original state. Which brings us to what will undoubtedly be the most important example of Doom taking over the world for the purposes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. 2015's Secret Wars event, written by Jonathan Hickman and drawn by Esad Ribic. But much like the 1984 event of the same name, this event also sees the creation of a place called Battleworld, cobbled together from the remnants of dying universes. Now, this event served as the culmination of the greatest storyline ever told in the history of Marvel Comics, from Avengers and New Avengers, which was also written by Jonathan Hickman, but drawn by Jerome Appiah, were an event called the Incursions, which literally brought universes in the multiverse together, resulting in the destruction of one or both of them. Dr. Doom is a central figure in this event, and is the one responsible for the creation of the Incursions, but also for the formation of Battleworld, which he creates from the pieces of destroyed universes using the reality-warping powers of the Beyonders, basically the race that the original Beyonder came from, which were siphoned to him through the Molecule Man Owen Reese. And so all this set the stage for Doom to operate as a literal god. And after creating Battleworld, Doom rules over it with an iron fist as God Emperor Doom, a being that's pretty much omnipotent. Just to give you an idea how insanely powerful God Emperor Doom was, he turned the Human Torch into the sun to provide heat and light for Battleworld. Black Panther, who was wielding an Infinity Gauntlet, could only hold Dr. Doom off. And when he was insulted by Thanos, as most people know by now, Dr. Doom reached into the body of Thanos, grabbed his spine, and incinerated Thanos on the spot. So it can't really be said that there won't be a Thanos-level villain in the MCU once Dr. Doom is introduced. But like every time he takes over the world, Doom's rule was not permanent. After being confronted with the fact that the first thing he did with this immense power was to steal the life and family of Reed Richards, Doom was forced to admit that Reed would have done a better job wielding the power of the Beyonders than Dr. Doom would have. And after hearing this, the Molecule Man cuts Doom off from the Beyonders' powers and gives them to Reed, basically bringing an end to Secret Wars, with Reed Richards recreating and restoring the multiverse. But even though this is the best known example of Dr. Doom's quest to rule the world, it's not the last. And in fact, earlier this year, and we covered it, Marvel published the One World Under Doom storyline. Now this takes place after Dr. Doom had taken the title of the Sorcerer Supreme from Doctor Strange, which actually worked, because keep in mind, Dr. Doom is not only a scientific and technological genius, he's a master of the mystic arts as well. And in fact, even without the title of Sorcerer Supreme, he's one of the world and one of the universe's foremost authorities on mysticism. But basically, Doctor Strange needed Doom's help during the Blood Hunt crossover to defeat a legion of vampires, and the only way Doom would agree is if Doctor Strange handed over the title of Sorcerer Supreme under the guise that Doom would use it to save the world, which Doctor Strange reluctantly did. But shortly after becoming Sorcerer Supreme, Doom tells Strange he is going to give him the power back once he fixes the world, and that he actually hasn't even started yet. And so Doom hides himself away in Latveria, where he begins formulating his plan to launch a new world order. But 6 months after this, Dr. Doom emerges from Latveria and then just declares that the entire world is now known as United Latveria, with Doom himself in control. He makes war illegal and offers free healthcare and education to everyone on Earth. The Avengers figure that there's no way that the leaders of other countries would go for something like that, so they just assume that Doom's controlling them in some way. Valeria Richards, the daughter of Reed and Sue, goes to Latveria and asks Doom why he's doing all of this when he's usually a pretty selfish person, wondering what it is that he'll get out of it, to which he replies the simple answer of glory. Now, when the Fantastic Four go to confront Doom, they find out that a lot of Earth's citizens are actually happy with what Dr. Doom has done, which at this point also includes eliminating all political boundaries on Earth, so all citizens work together regardless of national origin. This comes off the fact that multiple politicians have also supported Dr. Doom, which at this point also includes eliminating all political boundaries on Earth, so all citizens work together regardless of national origin. Psychic probes are sent into the minds of Earth's leaders and also reveal that they're not being controlled by Doom, but instead they've chosen to follow him. So his regime is quite literally chosen by the people of the world. He's not forcing anything, but it is Dr. Doom, and so things are not always as they seem. After repelling an attack from Dormammu with the help of the Scarlet Witch and by wielding the Eye of Agamotto, it basically looked like Doom had saved the Earth from a massive threat, and the citizens of Earth see Doom as their protector. But Maria Hill tells the Avengers, the X-Men, and the Invisible Woman that Doom is keeping a secret and she needs their help to uncover it. While that's going on, Reed Richards and Dr. Doom engage in a public debate, with the stakes being that if Reed wins, Doom will step down. Doom, of course, is able to retain the favor of the public by recognizing two things. The first is that politics is an emotional game before it's a logical one. Otherwise, the world would look starkly different. And two, he points out the hypocrisy of Earth's heroes, that instead of using the arc reactor to give the world free energy forever, Tony Stark uses it to power his suits. Instead of using Pym particles to increase the world's food supply, Hank Pym just used it to become a giant. Instead of sharing the cure for death with the world, the mutants in Krakoa kept it for themselves. It's not until the true nature of Doom's magic is uncovered that the tide of the debate turns, because Wanda, Sue, and the Black Widow discover that Doom's magic actually comes from a machine within Latveria that's harvesting the lifetimes of 1 million souls and siphoning that energy to Doom himself. Now, they relay this information to Reed, who then tells the public, along with video evidence, which forces Doom to admit what it was that he'd been doing. And so in the ensuing battle with Earth's heroes, Doom causes his armor to explode, sending shards of it scattering across the battlefield. Valeria Richards, who was supposed to be at home watching all of this, had actually arrived on the battlefield and is struck by some of the shards from Doom and dies, which devastates Victor. And so Doom takes Valeria's body to the Vishanti, Earth's magical guardians, and asks for them to restore Valeria's life. Once they refuse, he seeks out the living tribunal, the cosmic entity responsible for maintaining balance when it comes to mystical energy and enacting justice in the Marvel cosmos, who agrees to revive Valeria if Doom will relinquish the title of Sorcerer Supreme and pay the cost required for her resurrection. Doom agrees and later confronts Reed Richards with the news that he's dying. Now, Reed assumes that Doom wants help to stay alive, but Doom assures Reed that he's only checking on Valeria's well-being, and once learning that she's okay, Doom tells Reed to take care of his world before turning into a pile of green ashes. So yeah, that's actually the last time that we've seen Doom try and take over the world. And in fact, as of right now in Marvel Comics, he's dead. But with a movie focus on him coming out in the next year, I doubt that's going to last long. In fact, if I'm a betting man, I'm willing to bet Dr. Doom will return just in time for the release of Avengers Doomsday. But who knows? With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.